The year was 1910, back when our country was called the British India and the southern part of our country was collectively known as the Madras Presidency. There lived a 15-year-old girl who came from the suburbs of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu border. She came from an orthodox Brahmin family. Back when having less than 4 kids was a thing in an Indian household, she was the only child to her parents. She was pampered, headstrong, she knew how to read and write Telugu to some extent, and most importantly, she knew how to get out of the situation that she was put through. She got married young to a young, decent man from the same caste, of course, who owned huge acres of agricultural land where he mainly cultivated groundnuts and he earned his income majorly through agriculture. They had a happy marriage for a long time, looking after their lands, paying their workers' wages on time, and helping anybody who came at their doorstep seeking help. There was just one void that they were trying to fill, and that was they didn't have kids for the longest time after their marriage. So they prayed endlessly and performed so many rituals for God to finally answer their prayers and bless them with a girl child. She was so pampered, she was literally the center of their universe, she was all their happiness, she got all their attention. Her father God made every possible jewelry that a girl could wear. She was so pampered that she wasn't even sent to school because they feared that they would miss out on spending time with her. Instead, they took her along with them to their fields and she learned everything that she could about agriculture. You could say she was the most pampered child of the house. Although she was pampered, there were certain values that were ingrained in her by her parents. 1, to be caring to the people around her, and 2, to give to the people who came seeking help the most. You could say this was one true happy family living the best of their lives. When the girl child turned 7, an unexpected event struck which changed the course of their lives forever. The girl had lost her father and the woman had lost her husband. It looked like all the hopes came crashing down. The world around them just kept falling. There was just one question in the woman's mind, that how am I going to run this family without the support of a man? Although it looked like all the hopes were gone, the woman gathered all the courage to get back on her feet, and just like how a lioness would go out hunting for her family, she went out and took the initiative to sustain herself and her 7-year-old daughter. Because what else did she left have except for choosing from these 2 options? 1, to sit and cry about what had happened and not look at life that lies ahead of them. Or 2, get up, go out there and make a living for herself and her 7-year-old daughter. Just like any other brave person would choose, she did the same. She chose the latter. For time being, she sold off some jewelry and leased out some part of their land to sustain themselves financially. But what about the long run? She used all her brains and brawn and set up a provision store in the courtyard of her family house. Okay? She later used to go to the neighboring town to get all the supplies for her store, riding her own bullock cart along with her daughter. The journey from her village to the neighboring town was overnight, and she would gather all the courage to travel from her village to the town during the night. Remember, back then there was no paved roads, there was no street lights, there was no maps to follow, and it was not a great place for women to go alone in the society. Neither were women the sole breadwinners of the family. As she navigated through life, her purpose in life seemed more defined. So she wanted to get her 9-year-old daughter married. She found a groom who was not from a well-to-do family. So after her daughter's marriage, she decided to shelter the couple for as long as they could sustain themselves. So after a few years, when the couple moved out of the house to another village, she would often visit them or they would often visit her. And out of all the other grandkids, she loved her first grandkid to bits and pieces simply because he was named after her husband. You must be wondering, who is this woman that I'm talking about that we didn't study in our history classes? Well, this is the story of my great-grandmother and her 9-year-old daughter, my paternal grandmother. If I decided to share this story with all of you today, it's simply because of the two things that I learned. One, that you never know your true potential until they're tapped upon, just like how my great-grandmother didn't know that she could sustain herself and her daughter for her entire life. And second, where there is will, there is always a way. And remember, my great-grandmother chose to get out of the situation that she was put through. Instead of complaining, she chose to make way through her life. And this is an enough reminder for me to get through this life and make a beautiful memories out of it.